What if we changed a basic building block of life? One ordinary morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains, gently waking me up. But my mind was not as serene as the scene outside. It was shrouded in a cloud of thought. Questions about the future of humanity kept circling, not leaving me alone. How can we change the way humans survive? How can we redefine life without destroying its fundamental foundation? The idea kept swirling around in my head. What if we eliminated pregnancy altogether? No more stressful 9-month, 10-day pregnancies. No more physical changes. No more pain of childbirth. The idea sounded crazy, but it was not impossible. Science has come a long way. Technologies like artificial wombs are no longer just science fiction. They exist in laboratories, miniature models of life, where scientists are trying to recreate the wonders of nature. But does it really change the way we see life? "Hello," I said, picking up the phone. "Hello, my sunshine." Her voice rang out, familiar and warm. "Oh, you mean video calls?" I chuckled, anticipating what this conversation would entail. "Video calls? When are you planning to come see me?" She was suddenly serious. "I don't know how much time I have left." "Grandma, none of us do," I replied, trying to keep my voice light to appease her. "None of us do." "Oh, did I tell you? My cousin is pregnant." "Oh, that's great. But are you sure you want to hear this?" "Huh? What do you mean?" "It's okay. What else is new with you?" I quickly changed the subject. "What's new with you?" I just asked. "You just said it. She's only 3 years older than you know?" I sighed, feeling helpless. "Grandma, I'm only 22. I have plenty of time." "Less than you think, sunshine." That's all I wanted to say. "Yes, I understand. But now I have to get back to work." "Okay, sunshine. I love you so much." "I love you too, Grandma." I hung up and sat in silence for a moment. Her words kept ringing in my head. How could I plan for something I couldn't even imagine? Pregnancy, childbirth, motherhood were all things I had never felt ready for. Perhaps that is why the idea of changing the basic building block of life haunts me so much. If pregnancy were not necessary, would the way people view family change? If technology could replace natural vocations, would that bring us closer together or further apart? As science advances, we face not only technical questions, but also questions about ethics, meaning, and purpose. I don't know the answers, but I do know that such a change, if it were possible, would shake the very foundations of humanity. I stand up and look out the window. A new day has begun, but my mind is still full of thoughts. What if we could actually change a basic building block of life? And more importantly, are we ready to face the consequences? Questions about pregnancy. Pregnancy is both a wonderful and challenging experience. Many describe it as natural journey for humans. But why is an experience that is filled with pain, discomfort, and sometimes danger considered normal? Listen to these typical stories. "I threw up every day for the first 3 months, but the doctor said it was normal. I felt like I was going to die during labor, but the nurse just said it was something everyone goes through. A little tear while delivering the baby? No big deal, a few stitches and you'll be fine." These statements, shared with such nonchalance, seem as if all suffering can be summed up in 2 words: common sense. But is this really reasonable? Why do people accept such harshness so easily? Pondering the concept of natural. The word natural has always carried a positive connotation, as if everything that happens within its boundaries is beyond question. But is the naturalness of pregnancy something that makes us ignore its harshness? Perhaps because humans have lived for thousands of years in this biological system, we forget that many things that are natural are not synonymous with perfect. As a student, I read a groundbreaking scientific paper that questioned this very naturalness. It challenged the notion that women should be the ones to bear the responsibility of pregnancy and set out a different vision: the artificial womb, a potential technology that could completely change the definition of reproduction. The future of the artificial womb. Pregnancy has caused so much suffering. Wilhelmina writes in a passage that I couldn't take my eyes off. What if we could bypass it altogether? What if we could grow humans as well outside the body as inside? These words are not just a scientific idea, but a call for social change. I sat quietly, thinking about their deeper meaning. This is not just a new technology, but a vision of a different world. A world where childbirth is no longer the exclusive biological burden of women, where people can freely shape their lives and families without paying the price in health, time, or pain. The future, a society without the suffering of pregnancy. I envision a future where every town, every city has a state-of-the-art fertility clinic. These centers are not only research and development centers, but also provide artificial wombs for free to everyone. No more health concerns or risks of complications from pregnancy. Women no longer have to face the pain of labor, the risks of childbirth, or the long-term effects of pregnancy on their bodies. There is no longer any social pressure on them to be the sole responsible for reproduction. In this world, anyone can have children, regardless of gender or background. A single man, a gay couple, or a woman who does not want to take biological risks, all can become parents without getting pregnant. Freedom in family planning. Artificial womb technology not only frees women from pregnancy, but also brings complete freedom in family planning. Age, health conditions, or other factors will no longer be barriers. People can decide freely and flexibly when to have children. There is no longer the concern of having to have children before it's too late, or the social pressure to get married to have children. I envision a society where people can focus on preparing themselves mentally, financially, and emotionally before deciding to have children. And when they are ready, fertility centers will always be ready to help. Changing relationships and families. A question that comes to mind is, if reproduction is no longer dependent on the body, how will relationships change? The traditional family with the fixed role of parents in giving birth and raising children may no longer be the only model. Non-traditional friend groups, communities, or family structures may emerge. Single people or couples who cannot have children naturally will no longer have to worry about having to resort to complicated methods such as adoption or artificial insemination. They can freely choose how to build a family without having to rely on any social norms. Social implications. Wilhelmina does not shy away from the sensitive and difficult issues surrounding the use of artificial wombs. One passage in her article made me shudder. There are strong voices arguing that we should treat fetuses and even embryos as human beings. On the basis of these arguments, women have even been charged with murder after miscarriages. That statement made me put the book down with a heavy heart. The idea that women could be charged with murder for unintended complications struck me as unfair. It exposed a sad reality. In some societies, women are not only subjected to biological pressures but also to moral, even legal, norms regarding their reproductive abilities. A dark scenario, using artificial wombs to ban abortion. I can't help but wonder, if artificial wombs become a reality, could they be turned into a tool to limit women's right to choose? Some might argue that once this technology allows the transfer of embryos or fetuses from the mother's body to artificial wombs, abortion will no longer be necessary. They might claim that every fetus has the right to life, and that women have no reason to refuse to continue with a pregnancy because it is no longer tied to their body or health. But does that really respect women's right to choose? The right to abortion is not just the right to abandon a fetus, but also the right to make decisions about one's own body and life. Imposing an alternative solution like an artificial womb could lead to a denial of the value of autonomy. Wilhelmina raises a profound question in her article. Does removing women's biological role in pregnancy really liberate them, or just make them individuals controlled by technology and law? The issue of stored embryos. As I read on, I saw that she raised another issue that I had not considered. If all embryos were considered human beings, fertility clinics would be faced with hundreds of thousands of stored embryos. What would we do with them? In today's fertility clinics, thousands of embryos are stored each year. These embryos are often the result of in vitro fertilization (IVF), where doctors create multiple embryos to increase the chances of a successful pregnancy. But not all of them are used, and most are frozen indefinitely. If society begins to treat embryos as human beings, this storage could become a major ethical and legal issue. Are we responsible for Raising all these embryos? If so, who is responsible? Fertility clinics? The government. And if storage is no longer possible, is destroying the embryo considered murder? This idea leads to more complex questions about the rights and value of an embryo versus the life and choice of the mother or potential parents. Ends and futures. The conversation with my grandmother the next day continued along these lines. She was excited to hear about my work and the idea of artificial wombs. But when I told her about the social challenges, she just sighed. I understand, she said. But the most important thing is that you have a choice. Her words touched me. I realized that, no matter how much progress we make, the most important thing is to ensure that people can make their own decisions about their lives. When I hung up, I looked at Wilhelmina's file again. If we end up with fewer choices because of this technological advancement, it's not progress at all. Those words echoed in my head. I hope that one day artificial wombs will become a reality. But more importantly, we must build a society where people can freely choose their own path, without being forced by technology or prejudice.